Reddit, what is one way you have seen someone screw up their life with just a couple of words? Don't let nobody out of this room. That line added kidnapping to the charges against O.J. Simpson and assured he was going to prison. Did his lawyers try to argue that double negative though? That would have been funny. A guy I was once friendly with got stopped by a police officer for speeding while also under the influence. He wondered why he got taken to headquarters and later to jail after he tried to bribe the cop by saying, "Here's $50, go buy yourself some donuts and let's forget the whole thing." On this end, police here in Chile are very strictly against corruption and wear cameras at all times. There was a video on the news of a foreigner trying to bribe the officer with increasingly large amounts of money. He got his butt laughed out of the country. I don't know if it was mentioned before. In 2011, Alexandra Wallace, a UCLA student, uploaded a video to YouTube mocking Asian UCLA students. The video went viral, resulting in numerous videos mocking her and her blatant racist statements. She had to leave UCLA. My friend got stopped for a DUI. He told me he was sober when we left, but when we stopped for the cop he told me he actually had been drinking. He managed to pass all the field sobriety tests and even a conversation with the cop for like 15 minutes. The cop was going to let him off with a speeding ticket. He was speeding and asked my friend to sign the ticket. My friend said number. The cops arrested him and took him to jail where they gave him a breathalyzer, discovered he was over the limit and then wrote him up for a DUI. I once watched someone talk themselves out of a job. They were giving a presentation to a senior client in which they were providing update information on the last 3 months of work in a particular project stream. Their presentation consisted of them stating that they didn't know what they were talking about, had done no investigation work, and had made up their own story. Yes, that is a quote. Anyone remember the balloon boy incident? This happened maybe 6-7 years ago. A family where the dad was some sort of inventor made a weather balloon that flew off and they panicked because one of their younger boys, who was around 6 at the time, was missing. They thought he was up in the rogue weather balloon. News crews were called. It became viral as cameras followed the balloon around, even panicking when they saw something fall out of it. Turns out boy was found safe, playing at their attic. They still became viral and news outlets want to interview the family and dad was more than happy to comply. Well, kids being innocent kids. During one major news network interview, the sleepy boy said, "We did it for a show." You can see that look in the dad's eyes of IFCK up, revealing that the rogue balloon boy was staged by the dad so that the dad can shop for a reality TV show for his family. After that they went under a hailstorm of investigation. CPS was called and they were sued for the hoax. Big mess. I don't feel sorry for the dad. I feel sorry for his kids going through public scrutiny. Just Beck daddy wants his 15 minutes of fame. What really sold it is the fart the kid lets out during the awkward silence. I once messed up a job interview when I replied to a question with, "Yeah, I have anger issues, but I usually draw them out." Proceeds to show him angry scribbles. Haha, I think back in my life in interviews and the dumb things I said. I remember many years ago when I was young and I was interviewing for some job and it wasn't sales but it could lead to a well-paying sales job, and the ladies telling me all the advancements I could make and I said, "Oh, I don't want to do sales at all. I'm not a good liar." Interview ends 60 seconds later. Magic player Travis Wu was a respected entertainer, streamer, content producer until he went on a rant on Twitch about Hitler doing nothing wrong. Fired and swept mostly under the rug now. He was always such a weird guy anyway with his shirtless bad angle streams. Freaking nutter. Nah man, I'm fine to drive. Got a DUI, lost his job, was injured, and now evens out liquid concrete instead of finishing college. I'll bet that most people who feel the need to say I'm fine to drive are not, in fact, fine to drive. About a year ago in my job we were doing trial days. We were hiring 3 new people and had 5 people in for a trial day. 1 person a day, Monday to Friday. My manager asked me to email her that night to let me know how the girl I had for the trial day got on and if she was worth hiring. So everything is going great. Lovely girl. very easy to get along with and adapted very easily. So I'm making some conversation and she mentions that she goes from job a lot and gets bored of jobs very easily. Literally because of this I had to tell my manager not to hire her because we'd only be replacing her soon enough. I still don't understand why someone would say what she said during a trial for a job. She shot herself in the foot by saying that. Although on side note, the 3 people we did hire are still working for us a year later. So I suppose there's some happy ending. My roommate is like that. Quit her job at Panera after a month because all she wanted was enough money to fly out and get her cat. I saw somebody screw up their own life and somebody else's simultaneously. A few years ago my 15-year-old cousin got pregnant. She wanted an abortion. My aunt wouldn't let her get one. Adoption wasn't an option either. You're not getting an abortion. You made your bed so you lie in it. So my cousin carried the baby to term and had a healthy baby girl. She dropped out of school because my aunt wanted nothing to do with the baby so she had to tend to it full time. A week of this goes on and my cousin decides enough is enough and runs away with her 17-year-old boyfriend. My cousin had straight A's until she was basically forced to drop out. She still doesn't have her degree and is still living with her boyfriend somewhere in Washington. He has a construction job and my cousin has an Etsy shop. They're doing okay, but I know my cousin always wanted to go to college. My aunt had to raise the baby and is still raising her. She is 45 and did not want another kid. My alcoholic and abusive ex-stepfather was drunk at a bar once in our hometown. Ran into his boss, said a few mouthy words to him and was fired the following Monday. He had been at his job for 20 years and made over $100,000. He lost it all because he was a drunk dickface. This is a real story. A few years ago I was an avid World of Warcraft player and one of my best friends had finally started playing the game. This was great for our friendship because I had moved to another state and it was something we could do that was basically like us getting to hang out. We'd log into WoW a few times a week after work and shoot the crap over Skype. At this time he was also dating this girl who also played WoW. Their relationship had been going strong for about a year and she was starting to get to the point where she wanted to move in with him. However, he had been dodging that subject and stating he'd never lived with a girl before, which he had, and wasn't ready to go there just yet. One day him and I are on a Skype call doing our WoW thing. His girlfriend is also in the room with him playing on his Xbox off in the background. I start talking about my wife or something, going into a funny story about living with her, which we get a chuckle out of it. My friend tries to one-up the story by telling me something he experienced while living with his former girlfriend and he said, "Dude, when I lived with Melissa, blah blah blah." Immediately my heart sank. I sent him a DM via WoW that simply said, "You don't fricked up, dude. You just said you lived with your ex," and I swear to Christ I heard his balls shoot up from his nutsack to his throat over Skype. He replied back in game, "It's cool bro. I don't think she heard. She's playing Xbox. Let's just play it off." In my mind there's no way she didn't hear that crap. I pictured her picking up that sentence like when Peter Parker went into Spider-Sense mode during the first Spider-Man movie and he could hear every little detail around him, including a fly buzzing through the air. Anyway, the tone of our Skype conversion went from laughing to awkward silence pretty quick. It's funny because I was legit nervous even though it had nothing to do with me. My wingman instincts were in full panic mode. We played WoW for a few more minutes and he DMs me, "Frick. She just got up and left without even saying anything. I gotta go." That was it. He was freaking dead. A woman in Brazil yelled macaco, Portuguese for monkey, seen as a wildly offensive slur against black people, to the point that you can be prosecuted legally for hate speech, at a black soccer player during a game. Not knowing that she happened to be on the jumbotron at that moment, she lost her job due to it and became a complete social pariah. Destroyed her life with just one word. Here in the US a few years ago a Republican congressman lost his seat and his political career was ruined because he called a person from India macaca. He'll always be known as George Macaca Allen for all time. My step-uncle recently got married and while super drunk at the reception made a cringe-inducing speech about how he knew a really good divorce lawyer that would guarantee him alimony in the settlement. When the smiles turned to gusps he quickly backpedaled and said he wouldn't divorce her right away, he would get his money's worth from the wedding. Being a champ and still sticking to his guns to make a laugh, he boldly claimed he would murder and kill to make more money than she did so she would be well taken care of. Everyone at the reception hall was completely dumbfounded while my brother and I, who attended with our wives, tried to stifle our laughter at the train wreck we just watched in slow motion. The bride cried and ran out while my uncle chased after her yelling, "And I crap you not, what did I say?" Varna from Survivor screwed up pretty badly. He was about to be voted off the tribe and was making one last plea to let him stay on when he brought up how there is deception in the tribe because one of the tribe members hadn't told everybody that they were transgender. He outed the guy on national television, was immediately voted off and was fired from his job after the episode aired because of how much hate he got from that. Instantly thought of this. A friend in college said he had crabs just to avoid the advances of a fat girl, who then spread the rumor around school. Next thing you know, he was known as the guy with crabs. I read that at carbs really changed the story. A guy in my high school class told the teacher he was writing a piece on her and asked how to spell C. He's been in and out of prison a lot since then. I'm more careful when I drive drunk. Dead at 19. Glad I didn't get in that car with him. Rip Brandon. Kid I knew was being mugged, gun to his forehead. The thug takes his phone and wallet and was about to leave. Kid asks politely if thug can give back only his ID card. Thug shot him dead in the head. 2 days after having my head cracked open, I had a really bad day. My 4-year-old daughter, who I love, wasn't picked up by her respite care family, and they were completely unreachable. My 1st grade son was running a fever, so he was home from school. My daughter has anger and aggression issues, and she threw 3 gigantic tantrums that day. A social worker even came to my home and checked on us that day. I'll admit I was really mentally fricked up before the car accident, but I was just depressed. After begging anyone I could think to call to come help, because my daughter was trying to rip my staples and stitches out, I called the social worker and said someone had to come help or get her, because she was downright terrifying. The next thing I know, the police came and took my children. I've never gotten them back. I can't fathom how many people and social workers ignored me. It makes me sick. Not even a week into foster placement, my daughter was behaving like she did at home and was put into psychiatric hospital. She was 4 years old. To this day, she still has violent behavior with no common trigger. She's finally old enough to be medicated, but as far as I know, it's caused her to gain weight. That's it. She's just gone and bit a classmate and took out a chunk. I am scared of her and for her. How and why? I ache because I shouldn't have been left alone. After a social worker watched her behavior hours earlier and knew I had a head injury, I never was charged with abuse or neglect. But my family is destroyed because I asked for help. Some guy at work and distribution jokingly said I'll cut you to a co-worker and motioned with a box cutter. HR didn't like that and let him go. Kid I knew told a trans woman she'd always be a man and nothing else. No one hung out with him after that. They all basically shunned him. I'm so glad that he saw consequences for his crappy behavior. There are a lot of places where people would have just dismissed that crap. Was in on a job interview once for a high-profile academic position where the candidate was asked what tools would be essential to their research. The first thing they named was a technique our institution is not capable of carrying out. They backpedaled really fast, but the damage was done. Maybe they'll get the job at the institution that doesn't suck then. I'm sure it's here somewhere, but that CIO guy who filmed himself yelling at the girl in the drive-thru and got fired and ruined his life. Candidate in interview group of 300 for 23 positions when the moderator asked the group if there were any questions. How much are we going to be paid? That's a fair question, just wrong timing. PewDiePie. He's not exactly ruined, but I think it counts. He did a video featuring the website Fiverr, where you pay $5 to people to do a lot of stuff. He paid $5 to a couple of guys who would do a silly dance along with any message. He requested the message to be death to all Jews as a joke. The guys actually did it and they got their account suspended when the video got out, and eventually got it back. The Wall Street Journal did an article based on many of his Nazi and edgy jokes, only that WSJ didn't say they were jokes, and he lost his second season of Scare PewDiePie and other things, and now it seems like WSJ was running a war against YouTube. Every time someone famous says something racist, even internet personalities with no rules fall off their high horses. It's pretty incredible how fast you can screw your life up by saying something like that. Remember presidential candidate Howard Dean from the 2004 election? He was doing pretty well. Then at a rally he did a weird little scream thing. His poll numbers fell really fast. I am a conservative and never of course supported Dean, but I never understood what the big deal was about the scram. I thought it was a total non-issue. I rode the bus with a guy who was pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt or something trivial. He felt it was actually profiling, so he went to fight it in court. The judge upheld it. He flipped out and said it was bulls. The judge revoked his license for 7 years. 2 of my friends were against condoms. It just doesn't feel as good. They both have kids now, and I hear them complain that their childless friends can go out and drink all weekend and they're stuck at home. Till Reddit thinks construction workers are poor, uneducated screw-ups. I have a degree in compsy and started my own remodeling company. So far it's paid a lot of bills. Like, all of them. Lack of good financial habits. It's extremely easy to frick this up, and I see a lot of smart people frick it up. It's also made worse because most people don't want to talk numbers, like the number in the bank is equivalent to your actual human worth. Dad hit his daily withdrawal limit at the ATM, stormed into the bank in a tizzy to demand they let him take more out. Teller asked him what he was going to do with that amount of money. He lost his crap and started ranting about how the IRS is never gonna get his goddamn money, etc. Genuinely surprised he didn't get the cops called on him. He's no longer welcome at that branch of the bank. Not sure if this screwed up his life, but changed it in some way, I'm sure. This happened at one of my old jobs about 10 years ago. There was an opening for a management position. My co-worker that sits in the cube behind me applied for it. There was actually a number of guys on our team apply, so the VP is doing a lunch interview each day with the guys applying. 2 or 3 guys have already done it. One day sitting in my cube, spun around so I'm facing my co-worker's desk. We are talking about whatever. VP walks up and says, "Chicken bones co-worker, how about we go have some lunch? My treat." My co-worker looks at him, dead in the eye, and says, "Oh, I don't eat lunch." VP, "Okay, how about we go downstairs and grab a coffee then?" Co-worker, "Oh no thanks, I just finished a cup. I'm good for a bit." VP. The VP then looks at me like, "What the frick?" VP says okay, and awkwardly walks away. I looked at my co-worker and asked what the frick he was thinking. I don't really recall exactly what he said, but he was just clueless. Absolutely clueless what the VP was getting at. They set up a formal interview, but he did not get the job. Not sure if that was the reason why not, but I'm sure it did not help. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.